Hello there, it's Josh here from Racing to Profit. I hope you can hear me. I am here to record a quick video and to talk through this fine specimen you can see in front of you on the back of the Plumber's superb debut effort at Market Race, and having been transformed from going to Amy Murphy's with a bit of time and maturity and everything else. I have gone shopping again for another horse out of the Irish pointing fields. Similar kind of model. When you're spending less than £20,000, you have to try and think a bit out of the box, especially when you're not going through sales houses and some of the extortionate prices of horses that are going through the ring at the moment. And of course, as we all know, spending large amounts of cash is no guarantee of success within the horse racing game. That's not how we play it. I'm very lucky to have a few decent contacts, one in particular who himself has many contacts across the British and Irish pointing scene, and anything that comes available he lets me know and I ponder. And I thought I would take the plunge and get this lad we can see here called Give Me a Boom. He's 4-year-old. I am going to spend this video not staring at him in this first video clip, which you can see in front of you, but talking through him, why I'm excited. I'm going to talk through some of his form. I'm going to talk through a replay of his last Irish point to point, his bumper run at Fairyhouse, which has us all even more excited. And just to explain some of the depth for that, I mean, I still pinching myself that we've got him so cheap. And of course, my aim in this video is to convince you to take the plunge, join the fun, join the excitement, and sign up to become a member and a shareholder in Give Me a Boom, in what promises to be some very exciting years ahead. And my job is to try and explain why we think it is going to be exciting, and why, of course, you may wish to jump on board. So, taking such decisions is obviously a big decision. I know that in terms of taking the plunge to sign up to any horse or any syndicate or anything else. And my job in this video is to go through the details and kind of cover all the information required for you to make an informed decision. So, yeah, like I said, some of his form, some of his point form, bumper run. And then I'll touch on some of his breeding and a few other bits and pieces as well. He will be going to Amy Murphy's also, superb dual purpose trainer, and has done an incredible job with the plumber, who continues to work the house down on the gallops at home at Newmarket, and is going to give us a lot of fun. So with that said, obviously you can see Give Me a Boom in front of you. I'll play the video again. This was the first video I was sent by my contact, and you can just see, I mean, it's a lovely looking horse, a lovely moving horse. I sent this to Amy, got there to have a look, and the one important thing, of course, when kind of purchasing a horse, or for you wanting to sign up to a syndicate, is ideally you want them to have upside potential and their future ahead of them. Part of this game, of course, is all about the dream. It's about dreaming about what the future could hold, where, which race courses, which races this horse may take us. Of course, the first thing we want to do is get competitive runs and hopefully some wins and have something to cheer. But the thing to say about this lad as he struts up and down his Irish home, is that there is so much potential. And like I said, yeah, I sent it to Amy, and her views are, and you can tell looking at him, maybe he's got plenty of room for growth and development. He's only 4. I'll touch on some of his sires breeding, but they tend to kind of develop into their kind of age 5, 6, 7. And you can see here when he stops round this final time there, obviously he's looking great in his coat at the moment, but he has loads of room for strengthening up in his shoulder, at his rear end, his hindquarters. There's a lovely big frame and nice line and shape to him. A few others in Amy's yard who know what they're talking about had a look at him and thought he looked a decent specimen as a horse. And yeah, the hope and the dreams and the future are built around the fact that there is plenty more to come from him just through natural development of growing, strengthening up, moving to Amy's, becoming part of their regime. Importantly, another summer at grass. 2 or 3 months off is going to do him the world of good this season, as it will, I think, next season and possibly beyond that, as he keeps growing and keeps improving. Now, I say all that's important context for everything else I'm about to say. So bearing in mind that he is on the weak side, and there's plenty more development to come, and that's important context, I think, for trying to explain some of his performances, how he's run, what I was looking for, why I'm excited, and why I think you should obviously get involved. So that's him. I've put this video is you'll be watching this video on the main page where I'm discussing Give Me a Boom. You can watch it above this video, I think, of course. And yeah, so that's the first kind of item of interest, I suppose. The horse himself, always important. Like I said, that's the video I was sent. I mean, he just looks superb, but with so much more to come in terms of development, and that makes what he's done, provides context for what he's done, and gets us even more excited. So I am going to, let me just find his profile here. So yeah, I'm in the racing post here. Hopefully this shows up okay. So that's giving me the boom. Give me a boom. Obviously, you can go on the racing post and use the search bar and have a look. I'm not going to watch this point to point, although if you go on YouTube and Bell Harbour 6th of Feb, you can find that particular race, which I'm not going to do here. And I'm going to watch this point at Torella, or however you pronounce it. Apologies if I got that wrong. And yeah, talk through some of that, and then this Fairy House bumper as well, which was just mad, really, in my opinion. And once I talk through some of these races, you might understand why I'm very, very excited. As I said in the context, we've got a horse who is going to just grow plenty, strengthen plenty, and really has the kind of racing future at his feet. And it's always exciting watching the development of these horses over a few years. That's where the buzz comes from, especially if you're like me. I suppose your heart is more in the jumping game. You have time to really get to know these horses and see them develop from one run to the next and one season to the next as well. So yeah, what I should say about that first point is, you can watch that back. He did travel well to a point. It was his first ever run in his life. He's travelled well. He's jumped okay. The ground was very soft there. And when I jump over to some of the sire stats and some of the breeding, plenty of indications are that the sire's offspring are best on kind of good to soft and good ground. There's a chance he got stuck in the mud there. As I said, I'll repeat myself at various points, no doubt. He is on the weaker side. He's got plenty of room to grow physically and mentally as well. And 3 miles, and he might not be a 3 miler. And that similar thinking, which drew me into the plumber, that same kind of process where you're trying to find horses which you think are undervalued, who not many other people are looking at because of some of their numbers against their name. And when you're spending less than £20,000 on a thoroughbred racehorse, you do have to think outside the box. But we're doing it in the context that at this point he's run 3 times and he's shown a certain level of kind of hardiness, and he's got the constitution for racing. I do like this approach where you do have some evidence from the pointing fields, because they can take training to a certain extent. They can handle kind of some kind of race conditions, and as we know, Irish point to points in particular are competitive affairs. So he probably got a bit bogged down in soft ground here, but he is inexperienced. What I do want to say about this particular race, as you can see in front of you, is just an example of how you have to be clever. Rob James, who's a point-to-point trainer and a very good point-to-point jockey, and you may know him from £7 Claim with the odd ride for Gordon Elliott. He won the Kim Muir Dinny a couple of seasons ago at Cheltenham. But if I just click out of office, who won this point-to-point, Irish point-to-point, and just look at the sales. He went for £160,000 to Evan Williams after this performance at the Tattersalls Cheltenham February horse in training and point-to-point sale, 24th of February 2022. 160,000. Now, you may have the budget and the pockets to compete with such buying power. I don't. In order to buy a horse and to kind of find the money and put up the funding and then try and sell out and syndicate, and that seems just a stressful way to enjoy this game, in particular given the prize money levels over here. And when we're tapping into the joys of syndicates, the joys of experienced horse racing with other racing fans at whatever level the horses may compete at, but enjoying the all-round social experience, the communication, everything else. And there's a lot more stress and pressure when you've spent 160,000 on a point-to-point, and that's why you do have to think out of the box and start looking further down the fields in these races, because horses that finish first, second, third in Irish point-to-points tend to make a decent amount of money. I think this one was sold in the same sale. No, he wasn't. That one wasn't sold in the same sale afterwards. It's probably the next race. I'm just trying to remember as I go through. So I mean, that's just an example of a horse that's won a point-to-point and how much they can go for. I think the first one, is the only one that's been sold since. But 160,000 as an example there. So if I go back to Give Me a Boom. And I will talk over this point-to-point here in a moment. But again, as another example of having to think outside the box, hopefully you can see this in front of you. I will show this replay in a minute and why this PU looks a lot better than it does on paper, and you do have to watch these races and get a grip on things, but just as another example of how you have to try and box clever and think smart, which we've the evidence to date suggests we've definitely done with the Plumber. And given that's the first horse I've ever bought out of the Irish pointing fields through this route, through the same contact, with the same thought process and thinking, I do have more confidence, I suppose, in myself with this approach, because it shows what's possible, and he is going to win races. We don't know at what level yet, but I know from his demeanour and his homework and what he's done so far that as long as he stays safe and stays sound, he is going to give us plenty of fun. So you're trying to look for the same type, and just as another context, so this one won this point-to-point. And you can see there he went at Tattersall's sale on the 17th of March, £72,000, the High Flower Bloodstock and Warren Greatrex. That's the kind of money these Irish pointers are making, and that the winning Irish pointers are making, and that could be seen as cheap. Even the second, he has gone for £46,000 at the same sale. That's just an example of the amount of money that's sloshing around near the Irish point front end. Not a budget we can compete with, and like I touched on some of those previous points, I'm not sure a budget I'd want to compete with necessarily, even if I had the money, because there's spending big cash is no guarantee of success. But if you want to get a winning Irish pointer, or one that's placed, that's the kind of money you're going to need to spend. That's not what we're doing, and I'm going to show you kind of the second part of the puzzle after I saw that initial video and talked it through. I'm going to jump over to this point-to-point here, and let's just press play. Hopefully you can see that in front of you. I've got the sound off. Now, Give Me a Boom is at the front here. They've changed tactics, so this is his second run. He's a bit more experienced. He was keen a bit behind horses on his first ever start. Connections have clearly decided to let's change tactics. Again, all in that context, he's a young horse, he's immature, he's inexperienced. There's plenty of room for growth, as I touched on, in terms of muscle and everything else, his frame. But you want to see positive signs that they've got a bit of heart, they've got mentality, they can, they can race. There's a fair few runners in this race. These Irish point to points and even British point to points, a great educational experience for these horses. And for me, put them a step ahead of, taking risks, I suppose, on store horses, but they can be more for the dreams, I suppose. You can spend less money on a store horse, jump source age 3, in the hope they'll develop into something else, something very good. They can end up useless, and or like you spend a lot of money at sales from winning Irish pointers, everything else. But yeah, you want to see that they've got. Something about them, I suppose. That's why I'm watching this. Is I do not want him anchored out the back doing nothing all race, because then I'm trying to build up a picture of what this horse could become. Do I think they've got ability? Do I think they've got potential? Do I think Amy at Newmarket could do something with him, and give us all some excitement in the time ahead? The other thing to say as I let this roll is it's on good to soft ground, I think, so bit better ground. You'll see as he goes around, there's the odd kind of sketchy leap at times, but I like the fact that he's kind of settled on the front end. I like horses being able to run prominently. Long suffering readers and others of my blog will know that if you send a horse chasing, for example, 64% of all handicap chases in this country are won by horses who lead or race prominently. So I like to see that a horse, it's a positive for me that a horse can settle and can run out in front. So he's jumping the first few fine. I'm actually going to talk this race through to some degree. This is a mile circuit, this particular point to point. Of course, you'll see the hill they climbed there, but he's he's out in front and doing well. And let me just fast forward this a bit. So they are coming round here. I just want to find the spot. So he's jumping off okay. I think this is coming round the first time still. Is out in front there. I will just let this roll on and play, actually. So yes, you're trying to look and see how they get competitive. We know how, as I said, I've touched on how this point to point worked out, and that those at the front two have made a fair bit of cash, and not money that at the moment I'd be prepared to spend, and maybe you wouldn't either. But yeah, you're trying to see how they're going, how they're jumping, and he's lobbing along on front here. He's showing ability, which of course is important. And there's an important point in this race which explains a bit further down the PU. I think it's the sixth fence, which may be coming up soon, which he absolutely walks through. Makes a terrible blunder. It might be the next one. We do see it. Obviously, the camera angles are a bit different in these Irish point to points, although arguably seeing more of the field than in some of the dodgy camera work in rules races. I think is at this fence here. So he's at the front, lobbing along. You can't quite see what happens, but whack. Something's happened there. I'm not quite sure what. He has whacked it, obviously, lost his footing. So he has gone from 2 lengths ahead to out the back. And that's an example, I suppose, of the impact of an error. It's an impact of why watching races is important to understand how horses have performed and the finishing positions they've finished in. Now, at this point here, I'm watching this going, well, obviously he's young and experienced and there's room to improve in his jumping. Fine. He's not going to go chasing now for, at least another year, I should think. Summer at grass, bumper novice hurdles in the next main kind of winter season on ground that isn't hock deep. I'll touch on some of that in a bit, but he's not going to go chasing next season. It's all about the future with him, and building up his experience under rules, but clearly some room to improve on his jumping front. But what I like here, and we'll see soon, is his mentality, his constitution, I suppose. Many horses would just down tools at that point, especially one so inexperienced as him. And you want to see they've got a bit of fight and a bit of battle and a bit of bottle as well, I suppose. So there's still another circuit to go after this. That was a hell of an error, and it's interesting to see that jockeys organised him again. He sorted him out, and here they go, back in the race. He's obviously giving him time to fill up, get his confidence back, get into some kind of rhythm again. I'm going to speed along a bit. He's still out the back here, and I think this is approaching 3 out soon, but he hasn't dropped away yet. And now it's at this point the jockey tends, I think it's at this point, he tries to creep him a bit closer. So after that howler, he's still got energy, he's still got enthusiasm, all good for, and he's still showing heart, which I like to see. And remember, we are trying to think outside the box and find horses that don't cost £160,000, don't cost £72,000, but at the cheaper end, which less than £20,000, £20,000 less is in the jumping game. And yeah, like I said, you're trying to see they've got something about them. There may well be another circuit after this. So he is getting back in the race, and actually this is after about 2 miles. Like I said, I think it's a 1 mile circuit. There's the winning post. So they're going out for their final circuit, which is about a mile. And you know, he's still showing plenty. Bear in mind what I said at the beginning when talking over his other video. He's still got plenty of room to mature physically. And the other thing, of course, is we don't know what his optimum trip is yet. There's different signals from his breeding. He may not be a 3 miler, but even whatever, if he might be a 3 miler in time, he might be a 2.5 miler. But in the context of that early era, to even get back and run and jump past horses at this point, and look how he moves there round the outside, having used a lot of energy. And now he starts climbing the hill and it gets a bit tough. We're kind of approaching 2 miles 3, 2 miles 4 furlongs here. The fact he's still in this, I think this is approaching 3 out. I've obviously got the commentary on silent. You know, you're going to expect him to tire at some point, which is what he does, starts to do here, starts to tie up a bit of an error there. That's around 2.5 miles, so around half a mile from home. But no surprise he's done that. And, you know, that performance and the fact that he hasn't finished in the top 3 is why not many other people were looking at him. I hope from that you can see why I suppose, was excited, why I was interested in exploring him further in terms of his form and everything else, because he has shown some bottle, some heart, a good mentality, a decent cruising speed there, and then to come back into it. And there are perfectly legitimate reasons for why he's then faded. Obviously, that error and that energy loss and inefficient way of racing, to kind of get that ground back, is going to have cost him a bit. It was only his second ever start. You know, second ever start, there's plenty of room for development and growth, and everything else. And of course, at this stage in his career, he might not stay 3 miles at all. And that's exactly the same approach I took with the plumber, who travelled strongly in his races up to kind of 2 miles, 2 miles 3 and 4, and then faded for various other reasons, but partly stamina, and then kind of dropped back. And you know, some horse in front of him went for good money, and we got him. Well, was looking like it's going to be a bargain, kind of 10 grand all in with costs and everything else. So, you know, that's the kind I'm looking for, and I'm excited when you look at that point-to-point form and you see a PU. You obviously, it's normally alarm bells, but not on this example for those reasons stated there. We then get on to, I know I've been talking for a while, 22 minutes, but it is what it is, and I'm conscious, you know, this is a big investment decision, and I want to share everything and the process I went through to decide to buy them, and hopefully, you know, I share enough with some of you to convince you that's enough for you to want to jump on board, for the dreamers and the National Hunt fans out there. Now we get to this fairy house bumper, which I am going to. Now, this is a winner's bumper. I'm going to jump over. I'm on the racing post at the moment. Some of you will know I use GG's Gold Lot as well. I'm going to jump over to that in a minute. What I do want to do before I talk through some of this, some of these horses and form. I mean, you can see the trainers represented there: Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott, again. There's our horse there, and then his, you know, his 6 of 12. This is in a winner's bumper. I'll talk through some of the form of others in a moment. I do just want to play some of this race, just again to show an example of the approach. Hopefully that video is okay. So he's here in the blue hat. Now, we saw in that point to point that he was fine on the front end and settled. They are not going any pace at all here. You can see there how he is keen, he's pulling. That's going to be part inexperience again. He didn't do that in his last point when he was put onto the front end. It could be partly because he's in and around horses. He's got horses to his left, he's got a rail to his right. But yeah, partly because they're not going very quick either. But again, you want to see they've got ability and something about them. I've skipped a few furlongs here. You can still see that he is pulling for his head here. Now, at some point with that type of horse, you may expect them. You've used too much energy. You're just going to fall away and go backwards, which obviously wouldn't be ideal. But if they do the flip side of that, if they actually keep fighting and keep battling, that's even more promising. So let me just skip this through. They do dawdle through this, and then they start to pick up the pace as they turn for home. And you know, National Hunt Flat Race is turning into sprints. If you're a kind of 2.5 miler in time, not ideal. This is at the Ferry House Easter meeting. It's a pretty deep bumper. You can see the boys in green, Swade and Manir. They've got a couple here. Like I said, you've got Elliott and everyone else. I will talk through some of the form of some of these other horses in a moment, which maybe you may also share my excitement for why I think, well, I can't believe we've got him for the money we have, in fairness. So it's turning into a sprint. He's short of room. He's getting manoeuvred around. I'm not quite sure the jockey's the jockey, £7 claimer. He's getting outpaced, is a bit all over the place. There's a chance this ground might have been quick enough for him. I'm not sure. But at this point, you think, well, having pulled early, he drops out a camera shot here. Are we ever going to see him again? Is he going to drop back off? Now, don't worry about these first 5 pulling clear here, because I'll talk through some of them in a moment. Is he fighting? Has he dropped back out the telly? What's he going to do? And stop. There he is. So we can view this race as 2, but he has kind of won his race and finished ahead of the others in 6th. He showed enough battling qualities, enough kind of attitude, I suppose, to want to enjoy the scrap, enjoy being ridden, and the competitive juices to get ahead of this bunch behind him, in what was a fairly deep bumper on paper going into this race. So that's very exciting. So we know he's run under rules and he's got something about him. He's shown the constitution. The first thing to say is 4. He does get weight, of course, but he is an inexperienced 4-year-old. All the horses in front and behind, well, one behind, are a bit older. And yeah, they're 5-year-olds. They're bigger. They're stronger. I want to talk through where I'm ticking out at 26 minutes. So this was a winner's bumper. He was carrying a penalty, but he's 3 from 5 in his career. Smart horse, Willie Mullins, won a National Hunt Flat there, and he's won again there. He went off favourite. Decent horse. We don't need to worry too much about not being here. Him, I'm not quite sure. Is that possibly 30,000, but we don't need to worry about sales price too much. But some of these are expensive horses, is the point, I suppose. Again, this was his first start. That's quite a performance for Maleficent. And yes, 28th of April 22, Goff's Punchestown, horse in training on the back of that bumper run. That second, €150,000. That's pretty good going. That's very good business by connections. 19,000 there. Horse in training August 20. Second in the winner's bumper at Fairy House. £150,000. That one's gone for. So fair enough. Decent money. Then we've got Gordon Elliott's here in 3rd. Now this one came into it on the back of a win. Like I said, winner's bumper. So won this bumper here. So we're dealing with horses that already shown something. This form is even more exciting than I got even more excited about this than I did in his final point run, which I was excited for the reasons explained. Then, you know, he's run well there, run his race. That was his first start on 171 days as well. And, you know, another good horse, sold, well, he cost 80,000 in August 20. You know, fair amount to pay. Obviously not selling him, they're keeping him. And, you know, that's the kind of money, again, that you're dealing with. Another Gordon Elliott horse in 4th. Maybe I will just stick to the racing post so I can cover everything in here, actually. Another winner, so he won his bumper, Hacked Up, February Thurles. You know, and Irish bumpers tend to be pretty deep, fair bit deeper than the National Hunt Flat races in this country. 15 runners there. Hacks Up comes into this 67-day break, sent off 5-2, 4th of 12. Decent performance, they won't mind that. I was going to touch on some of the sales stuff. So yeah, he cost in 27th of July 20. £175,000. And yeah, here he is, fourth. And Give Me a Boom's not, he's 9 lengths behind him. We haven't paid 100 and what does he cost again? 75,000. That's not to say Give Me a Boom is going to be better than him in time, of course. But then we got the fifth, Johnny Cigar, who you will might notice here. So he was a bit more experienced, a bit more streetwise, but he'd still won a bumper. He'd come fourth here. He was given a break. He may well want softer ground. Then he got to win 1.5 lengths in this bumper at Leopardstown of the Nice Guy, and we know the Nice Guy has since won twice, hasn't he? Won the Albert Bartlett Grade One at the Cheltenham Festival. Then he won the equivalent Grade One at the Punchestown Festival. Now, that might have been a bit of a crawl in the sprint. Maybe he was flattered, but it's still good form, and it still just shows you the depth of the bumper that Give Me a Boom was running in. So, you can see they've all got something about them, the front five there. And then here we have Give Me a Boom in sixth, staying on. As we know, those front five are well clear, but given the trainers, no doubt the pedigrees, I don't need to go into those, the money spent, the form, most of them had all, well, bar the third, all the others had shown competitive kind of winning form in National Hunt flat races. And then we've got our lad here. And you still want some substance. So the seventh, now this got me excited. So he's won his bumper. He's won, if you split that race into two, he's won the second half bumper, if that makes sense. But this horse here won at Musselburgh by 5 lengths easily in the UK. 105 days off. I'd be surprised if he wasn't fit enough, but who knows? But in any case, Give Me a Boom has finished ahead of him, and he was a winner at Musselburgh, so that's exciting. I'm just trying to look down. This one came into on the back of the win. This ground was probably quick enough for him, but even still, decent RPR on that bumper performance at Clonmel. Absolutely hacked up, and we finished ahead of him. He's probably a bit more streetwise, bit more experience. Certainly, Home St George age 5, and so on and so forth. I'm not 100% sure these other four have done much, but he's beaten two last time out bumper winners. He's finished ahead of two last time out bumper winners there. So there is plenty of substance to this form here. Like I said, on the age of the other horses, the trainers, the owners, the money spent on them, the form going into the race, and he is still. He's ran green, as you've seen. He's been in experience a bit all over the place. They've gone very slow, then sprinted. He hasn't had the gears to pick up. Firstly, he might want further. Secondly, let's be honest, he might in time lack the class of some of these, but he might not. He might well improve in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to be better than some of these horses in front, and that's what horse racing is about. That's the dream. Trying to piece together all these pieces of the puzzle. He's obviously a year younger, and as I said, going back to some of that stuff said at the beginning, he's weaker. There's room to develop. There's room to grow. There's room to strengthen. He's got his whole racing future ahead of him. So hopefully those 2 bits of evidence, 3 bits of evidence. So I've shown you what the horse looks like. Just a magnificent, some picture. He looked great in his coat on this day, obviously, but he was alert. He was looking at his lad. He was taking his surroundings. But he's a nice stamp, and there's, like I said, plenty of room for development. There's evidence that he has the hardiness, the guts, the mentality, the heart to want to be a racehorse. And like I said, that's why I like kind of point to point and bumper form if you can find it, rather than that unraced approach, especially when spending 20 grand and less. It takes away some of the risk for me, in my view, because they've got a bit of hardness, they've got something about them. So you've got that point to point there. You can go and watch that again. Of course, you can go to YouTube, type in Torello Point to Point. It was the 5th of March there, Denison Commercials 4-year-old maiden. So do, by all means, go and watch that again if you please. But plenty there. And then that final piece of the jigsaw in terms of him as a horse and trying to work out what he might do, or whether his value is that piece of bumper form. And you're spending less than 20,000 given that race, some of the horses behind him, all the horses in front of him. I can't quite believe, still can't quite believe you've got him so cheap. But like I said, you ask why. It's because not many others are looking. They see 5th of 6th in the point to point. They see pulled up in the point to point. No, thank you. Everyone else is focusing on the front 4 or 5 in this Fairy House bumper. I should say connections. the trainer, the owner, did enter him in the Doncaster sales. They were pretty confident, and if we couldn't do a deal, they were going to send him over here. Thankfully, we could get a deal done, and I had to get into a minor bidding war with one other person in Ireland who was also interested. But I upped my offer slightly because, having come to the conclusion, having watched and talked about or pondered everything I've just discussed in this video so far, I really badly wanted him. Jay and myself were got to the point where we convinced we want Give Me a Boom to be running around in the Racing to Profit colours, and we want you to have the opportunity for him to be running around in your colours and be part of his journey and his story ahead. So I suppose that is the end of part one. As I tick round to 35 minutes, I'm going to skip on to part two in a moment, but I think I've talked through everything I've wanted to on that particular point. Hopefully you found that interesting and useful, and you can see why I'm excited. And this is the kind of thing, the kind of horse, the kind of form and performances that you have to try and find to find these gems. Thankfully, I was being tipped off by my trusted contact that this horse was for sale, and there was a deal to be done. And having done everything I've just done and what I'm about to do in part two, came to the decision and conclusion that we just had to buy him if he was within our budget. Yeah, plenty of positives about everything I've just said. Hopefully you've taken some of that in and noted and taken some of it on board, and you're starting to get as excited as I am. Now, what am I going to talk to in part two? The breeding, which is also important. There's no kind of surefire way to be assured that a good page and good breeding is going to lead to success. That you can find some what you could argue poorly bred horses doing very, very well, well-bred horses obviously doing well, but well-bred horses and horses that cost a lot of money, at some point running around Wolverhampton for £1,500. Or in a class 5 at Warwick, having paid 150,000 for them in a point to point 2 or 3 years ago. That thing happens all the time, as we know, and another reason why at this stage, or maybe never, we don't want to spend big money and we're trying to find some value purchases. So the final piece of the jigsaw, making an assessment on those points I've just discussed, the final piece is breeding and trying to get a feel for and an idea of what the horse may do and whether they've got the constitution and how well related they are. So I'm going to click on to, I'm taking about 37 minutes, talking for far too long as usual, but there's plenty to get through. So we are on Give Me a Boom's page here. Hopefully you can see this. He's out of Sageberg, who I will touch on in a moment. Nakara 1 was unraced dams. So the dam didn't race, so you're trying to get a feel for, that's the mother. Now, if the mother didn't race, you've got no evidence to go on there. We can look at her breeding first of all. The first thing to say about her is, if I click on, so this is Nakara 1's mother, her own dam, and you're trying to see, and these therefore are her half siblings. So the mother of our horse, these are her half siblings. Only 4 have made the track. There's obviously one standout here. So you want to see that, on the dam side, they've produced some decent horses, or some decent horses in the bloodline. One Knight, who our dam is a half sister to, was clearly quite good. Won the Grade 1 RSA. What was the RSA, and what I still call the RSA at the festival, the 3 mile and a bit Grade 1 chase for novices. RPR 159, was 9 from 20 in his career, best RPR 167, total prize money of 160 grand. Now that wouldn't be bad, would it? If we could Give Me a Boom, turns into a 167 horse, wins a Grade 1, 160 odd £1,000. Is that going to happen? Well, possibly unlikely, but it's the dream, and that's what this game's about. You just never know. You do never know. So there's some positives there in terms of that particular side on the mother's side. Let me just go back to Give Me a Boom's page. So yeah, so there's some positives there on yeah, the dam side. So we know she's a half sister to, well, one very, very good horse. You then the other thing to see, especially if the dam hasn't raced or is unraced, is what have her other offspring done. So she's had Give Me a Boom's only the third foal to make the race course, because we can see the evidence here. You want to see that the horses, well, I like to see that some of the offspring have had shown ability, and kind of winning form is decent. Doesn't necessarily matter at what level. You've got different sires, of course. You have different breeding influences, different trainers, everything else. This horse has been consistent. I have watched some of his races back. He did hack up here at Naas in 19 furlongs heavy ground, handicap of 91. He's plenty of seconds. This one in particular, he travels very well. He still travels like he's chucked in these races here. He's got a trait in him, this one, where he can't be in front for too long. Not ungenuine, he just, I think, gets a bit lonely and likes the company of other horses. That didn't stop him here when he hacked up, but showed ability. This one liked very heavy ground. It's probably the sire's influence, I suspect. Our sire isn't a heavy ground horse, but I'll touch on that in a moment. And yeah, then the other one that's exciting is Redzor for Harry Skelton and Dan Skelton. 2 from 13 in his career. He won a point to point. So this is a half brother to Give Me a Boom. He ran well over hurdles, 2 miles 5. He started winning when he was stepped up in trip. 3 miles, good ground. He won there under a penalty, ran okay. End of probably a longish season here in March. Had a break, came jumping. I've watched this Fakenham. I mean, if Give Me a Boom, when he eventually makes his chase debut for us at some point, runs as well as Redzor did in this race, we will be delighted. This turned out to be a fairly deep race. Jersey Bean, now he's smashed 21 lengths, a good 133-mile handicap chaser with a few wins on his board, but he bounces out. He settles, he leads. At some point, he hits the front. He jumps well, eased down. Mark of 126, Racing Post rating 136. Happy days. Good ground. He then gets stuck in the mud a couple of times. A bit of odd campaigning for me, but that's not for me to comment too much. But his 2 wins are on decent ground. They ran him in winter soft. This was quite a deep race, in fairness. Class 2 novice chase. The winner there, Holstone, came into that raid about 150. Still, that was decent. This was Newbury run wasn't bad either. He was up at the front for ages. Then he lost his position. Then he fought back and stayed on. Then they ran him at Cheltenham in the 3 mile 6 race, which can ruin many a horse. And he returned this season after 669 days off. So he obviously had an injury, and he hasn't quite found his mojo just yet. But on ground, he probably hated, but at least his handicap mark will be coming down. So you might be one to keep an eye on. I'll obviously be keeping an eye on him. But yeah, he showed ability. He showed winning form over 3 miles. Ours in time, as he strengthens, may get that. But that's what you want to see, or that's what I want to see, certainly, that there is some substance on the dam side. If they haven't raced or performed themselves, they're related, and their dams relate, and they've got themselves have got half brothers and sisters that might have performed well, and that they have evidence and proof that they have produced offspring who can win. And one night more, I hope, was an okay level. Redzor an even better level. So that's very, very exciting. So we've got that side, those boxes ticked for me. You can see here a bit description here: 4 foal, half brother to winners, Redzor. One night more, I hope. Dam and race half sister bumper, very smart. 2 mile 3, 3 mile 2 hurdle chase winner one night, which I touched on. Then we've got Sageberg. This is the final piece. As I tick round of 43 minutes, I will try and finish up in 50. So these are some of his progeny. So he was an unraced at 2, top class over 9 to 10 furlongs at 3 and 4, including a Group 1 in France from a family of Arc winner there. So decent horse. You can see some of his offspring here. Rouge Vif. Best RPR 164, 100 and nearly £90,000, 7 from 21. can give me a boom, become as good as him, or maybe Chitabello wouldn't mind. 4 from 30, 326,000. Very well campaigned. Won some decent races, that horse. 158. Even more here, multiple winners down the page here. Decent horses performing to a decent level. So he produces good jumps horses. I can click on a few of these things. Progeny Statistics. Now this is interesting. Plenty of run on. Let's have a look. So jumps from 119 different runners over sticks, 26 have won. That's okay. 22%. His jumps offspring, or offspring that have run over jumps, have won 617 times in total to date. 56 winners, not bad. Another over 100 placed efforts, seconds and thirds. That's pretty decent. You can see their hurdles. Not many have gone chasing, but they do pretty well when they do. 12% overall from all of his progeny that have gone chasing. Actually, plenty of them are only now starting to go over fences. They're only now starting to get old enough. I'm not sure if there was a change of breeders or something else. He's 18 years old. But it's only kind of in the last 3 or 4 years, plenty more are starting to go jumping. If you look at the ground down here, now this is important, or interesting I should say. Obviously they can get ground influences from, well, we get influences all sorts, of course, from the mother and the father, the dam and the sire, and grandsires, granddams and everything else. The grandparents as you go through, but you can see there is a clear preference for some good in the ground. Now we do think is going to be we're going to try and, the aim initially is going to be to give him a summer off and run him in the winter, not in deep, soft, heavy ground based on some of these stats here, but you never know until the horse runs. But of course, there is plenty of good to soft ground in our main winter season in October, November. You might need to miss some heavy ground in, say, December, January. But then you've got February, you've got March, you've got April, you've got festivals, you've got Haydocks, Swinton Hurdle Day. Any number of decent races on kind of good to soft through to good, which is exciting in the main winter season and into the early summer season as well. So that always gives you plenty of options. And I probably prefer a horse who's we think, or certainly sire influence, is going to be better with good to soft than kind of hock deep, heavy and soft, because of course in our winter seasons that can only give you a short window depending on what the weather does. But we shall see. It might be in time he is fine on a softer surface. So there's some interesting points there, but like I said, plenty the sire has produced plenty of decent horses over jumps, as you can see there, some of those, and what I said about the dam sire side as well. The final thing I'm going to touch on in this video is let me just find it. I'm going to jump over to my horse race base account, one of them, Sageberg as the sire. Again, you can see this is all of his progeny as a sire. Now, this is the other thing I want to point out. They tend to get better with age. So, again, this is some context for his point form. Why he's looked green and inexperienced, and he's a bit weak. There's plenty of growing to do into his frame. That is common for this sire. So, look at the number of runs they've had at age 4, 8 wins. Not too bad, but look at that jump up as 5 and 6. As they get stronger, as they have 1 and then 2 summers or winters in a field, given time to mature, to grow, to eat. You can really see them jump up, and there's not many 7, 8-year-olds have run as yet. So that jump up into age 5 and 6 is good. It gives us longevity. It always means we're excited going into the next few seasons, because there should be natural improvement through growth and strengthening and everything else. There's some further evidence on the ground. All the progeny on heavy and soft, 4-6% win strike rate. You're jumping up to good to soft 15, 10% there, good to firm, haven't had too many runs. I can look at all of his national hunt progeny. Again, the age stats similar there, really comes into himself next year and the year after. That's what this would suggest, which is no problem there. And again, good ground, good to soft. The odd one does handle soft, heavy not so much, yielding fine. So yeah, that would lean towards good to soft, good ground potentially. How he travelled and floundered a bit in his first point to point, where it was very deep and very soft, maybe evidence for that also. But of course, like I said, young horse on the weak side as well. You may find it interesting that his Progeny 4 from 23 at Cheltenham. I have said that deliberately just to get us all dreaming. Of course, a winner at Aintree as well. I don't mind the Aintree Grand National meeting. So yes, that's probably all I need to say there. Not many have gone beyond 2 miles 6 in fairness, but those that have enough have stayed. You can see the official ratings, plenty across the bands, plenty have done well in the kind of 1-2-1 plus. It's a syndicate. We want days out, we want competitive runs, we want fun, we want wins. To a point you don't care what level, but we all want to dream a bit. We all want to think they could become a 120, 130 class 3, 135, 140 class 2 decent handicapper, and then beyond that, who knows? Could he become a Rouge Vif? Could he become like his mother's half brother, kind of shape up into the top level? We have to dream. So, yes, that's enough on that. The other final thing I wanted to finish is I'm not sure again if something has happened with the breeding. You can see actually in 2022 the most winners of his progeny so far, certainly fewer runners than 2021. So that's a positive. It could be they're really starting to come into their own now. Now, I'm not sure. I think a lot of French breeders, and lots of his progeny were born in France. That's when the origin of the horse and the suffix you get next to their name. That's where that comes from. So the origin. These ones are born in France. These ones born in Ireland. I think Irish breeders maybe a few years ago started to take more note potentially. So there's a lot of French breeds, but I just wanted to finish because this is what I looked at and this is what I thought about. And those that have been born in Ireland, bred in Ireland, again, they've taken off in terms of those basic numbers there, but it's a positive. 48 runners 2020, 184 2021, 126 so far in 2022. That would suggest they're going to be the most this year. 13 wins already, 10%. So that's a positive as well. So that's interesting, and that got me excited. So I've been talking for 51 minutes. I've tried to go as quick as I can while thinking and talking and trying to say everything useful and everything I want to say. But on the breeding front, plenty of positives there about the sire, plenty about the dam, the half siblings, the dam's half, or one of the half siblings in particular. And there's good breeding all the way through that line actually, but you can overthink breeding, but they are the things I like to look at when trying to piece together the puzzle and justifying still spending what is, a substantial amount of money. It's not in the horse racing world, but it is for us. So that's the dream. So I hope that video has kind of explained everything. I've pretty much talked you through the process that I went through when making the decision and consulting Jay and consulting Amy, making the decision to buy Give Me a Boom, and hopefully we'll be doing that plenty on the racetrack in the years ahead. But part one, the specimen, the physical, which I will finish this video with there. I mean, what a lovely looking horse he is. Plenty of room to strengthen, plenty of room to grow. I've outlined below some more information. I'll touch on the plan with him. There's obviously then the costs and everything else. For those of you that are part of Syndicate number 1, Syndicate number 2 of the Plumber, you may be equally excited as well. If you're new to these pages, if you're new to my videos, if you're new to Racing the Profit, if you're about to become new to Racing the Profit Syndicates, welcome. Thank you for getting this far and watching this video this far. It is much appreciated. I hope you've found that useful. I hope you've found it enjoyable to a point, but certainly interesting, and I hope you're about to finish watching this video with as much excitement as we have for what we think is a reasonable outlay. There is so much to get excited about. Amy is going to do wonders with this horse. Another summer at grass, given even more time to strengthen, to grow, and then to run next winter season. bumpers, maybe another bumper, then novice hurdling, and then maybe in the handicap hurdles, or we'll have a decision at some point, maybe into next season or the season after. He will go chasing at some point, obviously with his breeding and that pointing background, but he really is a horse we can get excited about, we can get to know over the next 3, 4, 5 years. Remember, he's only 4 at the moment with his whole jumping life ahead of him, but he has already shown me more than enough for us to get excited about the future for all of those reasons I have stated, which I won't repeat anymore because I've been talking for far too long. But this is me saying, yeah, thanks for watching. Scroll down a bit further if you're on the edge of the seat, if your heart is racing about wanting to make sure you do not miss out on this opportunity, then do click down below and follow the instructions if you want to join. Mainly drop us an email saying, Josh and Jay, I'm in, can I have a look through the agreement, but I want to sign up. Of course, any other questions, email them, send them in as well, and we will do our best to answer them. But of course, take your time, have a ponder, watch this video again if you want, watch his point back, watch that national bumper back, dive into the form, ask any questions you want, but there's plenty there, plenty of substance for why he's a bargain, and I can't wait to welcome some of you on the inside on this next stage of the exciting Racing to Profit Syndicate journey. But with that said, this is Josh saying thanks for watching, and until the next time, bye for now.